All right, let's talk about minimalism, specifically why this idea of less is more is getting so popular in a world that's, well, pretty obsessed with more is more. I mean, think about it. Have you ever been in a supermarket just staring at a wall of, I don't know, 50 different kinds of mustard? Or you spend an hour scrolling through a streaming service and end up watching nothing at all? It's this really weird modern feeling, right? We have all these choices, but somehow we end up feeling less happy. What's going on there? Well, it turns out it's not just you. There's actually a name for this feeling. It's a real psychological concept called the paradox of choice. So this theory comes from a psychologist named Barry Schwartz. And what he basically said is that this explosion of choice we have now, in literally everything from our jobs to our coffee orders, it's not making us freer or happier. Actually, it's doing the opposite. It's become a serious problem, and it's making us feel more anxious, more stressed, and just less satisfied. So yeah, let's dig into that. The problem with having more. Okay, so if having more is actually the problem, then what's the solution? Well, there's this really powerful cultural idea that has an answer for us. I guarantee you've heard this one. Less is more. It was made famous by the legendary architect Ludwig Mies van der Rohe. And that one little phrase, it became this huge rallying cry for a totally new way of thinking, not just about design, but about, well, about life itself. And that idea, that less is more idea, that's really the heart of minimalism. So let's take a closer look at what that means. Now, when we talk about minimalist architecture, it's not about just having empty rooms. It's actually a style that it really flourishes with simplicity. The whole point is to strip everything down to its most essential parts. So you use just a few materials, you focus on clean shapes, and you play with light to really highlight what's truly important in that space. But here's a question. Does less mean the same thing to everyone, everywhere? As it turns out, not at all. Culture plays this massive role in how we even define what simple is. In fact, you can really see two very different paths to simplicity, and both of them are shaped by very different cultures. Okay, so on one hand, you have Western minimalism. This stuff grew right out of the modernist movement, and it's all about technology, progress, and making a clean break from the past. But then you have Japanese minimalism, which is completely different. It's deeply rooted in tradition and Zen philosophy. For them, it's not just a style, it's a whole way of life that's all about finding harmony with nature. And you can see this difference so clearly right here. Just look at the Salk Institute. It is a bold, monumental statement. It's all concrete, sharp lines. It's like a monument to human achievement and technology. Now compare that with the Faulkner House. It's designed to do the opposite, to almost disappear, to just blend right into the natural surroundings. I mean, they're both minimalist, but they have completely different souls, don't they? All right, so let's get into how these big cultural ideas are literally built into the concrete of some incredible buildings. So what happens when you take one of these philosophies and you drop it right into the heart of a totally different culture? Well, we can see exactly that with a really famous building right in New York City. Check this out. This is the new museum, and it was designed by a Japanese firm called Sana. At first glance, it just looks like this fun, playful stack of boxes, right? But underneath that simple exterior, this design is a perfect expression of that Japanese approach to minimalism we were just talking about. See, Sana's whole philosophy is based on these core ideas. The shapes look simple, but every single one is obsessively thought out. They're trying to create this feeling of fluidity and transparency to make the whole building feel airy and light. And here's the key part. They're always thinking about how to consciously connect the building to what's around it, even in a place as crazy and dense as Manhattan. And to pull off effects like that, minimalist architects, it doesn't matter if they're Western or Japanese, they are absolutely obsessed with their materials. They might only use a few things like concrete and glass, but the way they use them is incredibly deliberate, to create texture and play with light and really evoke a specific feeling. And you can really feel the power of that approach right here. Over on the left, you've got this raw, handcrafted concrete at the Secular Retreat. It just gives the whole building this earthy, grounded feel. Then on the right, look at those huge panes of glass at the University of Ottawa. They create this incredible sense of weightlessness, of total transparency. It's just amazing. Simple materials, but the effects they're profound. Okay, so after seeing all that, let's try to pin down what less really means in these different contexts. So if we boil it all down, it kind of looks like this. Western minimalism is often focused on the technical, the physical, The main goal is to create a really dramatic visual statement, something that feels new and breaks from tradition. But Japanese minimalism, that's a different story. It's all about fostering a lifestyle of serenity, of quiet reflection, and finding that sense of harmony with your surroundings. So, you see, minimalism is so much more than just white walls or having an empty house. At its core, it's a really deep, philosophical answer to the clutter and noise of our modern world. It's a search for what's meaningful, whether you find that through incredible technology or through a quiet connection to nature. And that brings us right back to where we began, right? Back to that paradox of choice. In a world where having more so often just makes us feel less. So maybe the most important question to leave you with is this. In your own world of endless choices, what does less actually mean to you?